Welcome back to another episode of Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I'm your host, Anthony Miglerino, along with Zach Small. And today's topic, important conversation, we're going to talk about inner peace becoming a peaceful home. How we as men, when we can gain access to that inner sanctity, that inner peace, how that reflects into our home, and we can provide a safe and comfortable spot for our kids and our family to grow and flourish. What's going on, Zach? How we doing today?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Listen, dude, this is an important topic, right? This is something we talk about often. How how we are as men, how we act, how we behave, and who we choose to be, how it affects our family negatively and positively. And the more that we speak about this, I even gain insight. I start to understand more of my path and who I want to become, even with all the work that I've done in the past. Right, it's a continuous process. It's an ongoing achievement that I want to gain access to because I want to make sure that my kids understand it well. Right, I want them to see that they can achieve peace by doing hard work within themselves. And that is one of the examples that I want to influence my kid more than anything in my home. And
What's interesting about that, when you go through it, it really is that powerful. It really, really is at the bottom of this. What we're doing here, the discussions we're having, every word I've said was a thought that then came out. Like the order, the topic, the way I'm doing this, these are all thoughts that are becoming actions. It all starts inside. So when we're talking about the lives we live, people see that as like, oh, these are the things you do. But first, we had to think about it. First, we had to say, hey, I'm going to get up and go to the gym. They see the bodies like, oh, yeah, you have strong bodies. They see, the messages. Oh, you have strong voices. You have a strong message. I think people overlook none of that's possible if it's not happening up here first. If what's in your head, your heart, your soul, all the stuff like on the inside of you that makes you a man, if that's not right, the home's not right, because all the actions that flow from that inner place, they're going to be a little skewed or jacked up. And that's why I think this is a great topic, because this is where it all starts. This is like the inner core that's shooting out all the energy to the actions and the words that we're giving out to the world.
Yeah, it starts with us first and foremost. And it's a weird concept or an idea to tell somebody, right? You have to find inner peace. So many people search for that, right? They search for happiness, they search for inner peace. And it's not something that you can just go and get. It's something you have to work towards, something that you have to achieve. And I know when the moment I started to realize that and started to take the examples of how I wanted to be as a man, who I wanted to be as a father, that is when my parenting just grew tremendously, right? That's when I started to really see how who I was and who I wanted to become affected everybody in my life. So in order for me to find peace, I needed to go back and I needed to figure out what was stopping me from achieving that peace, right? What lies was I telling myself that kept me from going on the right track? And a lot of what we do, we talk to other fathers, we coach. You run the fraternity of excellence, and being around other like-minded men also has helped me greatly. Right, being around the guys in FOE, just sharing ideas, admitting there's something I need help with. That is a great start to becoming better, and especially with parenting. If you go about parenting and you're always coming from the dominant position and there's nothing that you need to learn, and you start to look at how you interact with your kids, screaming, yelling, punishing, mistreatment, criticism. We spoke about that on a podcast with how we speak to our kids is important. But if you can honestly take a look at that and you can say, hey, that's not the man I want to be. This isn't what I want to show my kids what a good man is. Then you have to start peeling back the layers. You have to start making improvements, and you have to really be aware, conscious of who it is and who it is you're displaying to your children. So that peace is hard to find because you have to go through a lot of pain to get there.
And in that's where people have the issue, because they immediately write it off. The work that has to be done is dismissed because, oh, that's not important. Fatherhood just comes to you. You don't need to work at it. You just get it right. You're just instantly a dad and you know what you're doing and there's nothing to think about. When you were talking about being intentional with it and focusing on your actions, that spoke to me on a way that nothing else could, because I was like, damn, like literally right there, I focus on being a good dad. Like I pay attention to how I'm interacting and how I'm speaking with the kids. And I'm always looking to improve. On the podcast you referenced, The Tone in the Home, on that podcast, I told you, I still have to fix my tone because I come across like I am right now. I'm not mad, but this tone can come across as heavier than I mean it to. You know, and that's something I really have to pay attention to, because when I get in my thoughts or I get on a mission, I get very like mission oriented. Like, all right, guys, like here's what we're gonna go do. I gotta slow it down and make sure the tone and the language I'm giving across is intentional. And I'm actually being more open, you know, it's matching what I'm feeling as opposed to what I'm saying. I mean very positive, open things, but I'm coming across as very closed and dad doesn't want to talk to anybody. And that's not what I mean at all. But if you're not paying attention, you don't even realize it. I mean, to the point, the intentionality of the thumbnail we chose. When we were speaking with our graphics guy, we had the option of, we were going with the Zen, you know, the inner peace. We didn't go with the Buddhist. We didn't go with these things because we wanted something about balance. And I don't know the name of that yoga pose, but I do know that that person is balanced. And I do know people will see that that's weak. Yoga, nah, that's not for me. That's not masculine. That's for the granola people, you know, the weak folk. Do you know how hard it is to be alone and do nothing but listen to your breath and stretch? Do you know how many of those tough men who are writing off that yoga could not do what they're doing? You could not stand there balanced because there's too much happening up here. There's too much spinning around in your heart for you to just relax to do anything. You can't be alone with your phone. I mean, without your phone. You can't be alone without distraction. You can't be alone without something to click, something to hear, something to listen to. Because when you're alone, the inside is so chaotic, it drives you mad. So when you write off, oh, the yoga, oh, that's weak, you're just dismissing something you don't want to face. And in this episode, we're going to talk a lot about things you don't want to face, because that's the only way for it to go, the static inside of you to go away, and for that signal to be found. That's inner peace.
Yeah. And what does that look like in fatherhood? You know, we know there's a million different scenarios of what pushes our buttons as a father, whether it's getting the kids to bed, getting on time for the bus. And in those moments, if we are overreactive, if we're hypersensitive, if our kids have a little issue that they can't deal with and we're responding, or better yet, we're reacting in a very intrusive way, a very frustrated way, an angry way, what does that say about where our mind is at, right? How much is that showing our kids that we don't have our shit together, that there's something wrong inside of us, that this little problem, our kid doesn't know how to tie his shoe, and we have to criticize and we have to demean him because we can't be at peace within, right? We can't figure out, hey, you know what? Maybe the type of leader that my son needs right now is somebody who's calm, who's collected, and could offer advice instead of always just being reactive and saying harsh things. So it takes a lot of self-reflection. You really do have to choose what type of father you want to be, right? Who that man looks like, what's important to that man. And a great thing about being a father is we have to be considerate of our children because they depend on us. We can't just dismiss everything they do or blow it off, because that's not dealing with anything, right? That's completely avoiding any parental responsibility. So the more that you can tap into it, again, you're going to find that the more willing you are to do the hard work, to face these challenges, the more peace it's going to bring to you. We get stronger as we get better at doing things. Things get more difficult when we avoid and we take the easy path, but we keep repeating the same barbaric and tragic parenting methods on our children without even really being aware of it.
You know, it makes me think of the term synergy. We did the podcast interview with Lilia Schott, and the synergy between parent and child of having to come together for it to work. You know, so she runs liliaschott.com. On Monday, it'll be dropping, so you can check that video out. But she runs Synergy Parenting, where it comes to the parent has to resolve. The parent has to go inside and do the work for them to be able to reach out and connect with their kids. You cannot connect. You cannot bring a peaceful home to life. You cannot meet your children where they are if you are not able to bring peace from within to them. If you're bringing your trauma, you're bringing your unresolved pains to the table, and your kids bringing their innocence and they're bringing their just natural wonder and curiosity to the table, you're going to dilute that positive signal with your static. You're not going to be able to match up. You're not going to find that synergy that we're so desperately looking for in homes. And you see a lot of this. You see a lot of people, well, we should be like the 1920s. It should be like the 1950s parents. And you see those like vintage things. A lot of the dads on Twitter, they share those vintage posters and they'll share those vintage artwork. I can't think of the guy's name. I want to say Rockwell, but I'm pretty sure that's not right. But basically, it's those sitting by the fire. Everybody's happy, go lucky. And the dad's there and smoking his pipe and the mom's coming in and the kids are so happy. And they're chasing this ideal from the past. And every time when I've got to be the asshole, show me where the cell phone is in that photo. Show me where the TV is. Show me where their cars are. Show me what's going on. Show me where COVIDs and masks are sticking around. You're living in this fairyland. You're living in this pretend world. How about we live in reality? In reality, you can't meme your way to happiness or look back to the 50s for happiness. You have to look at now. To build that synergy and to get the goal you want, to have your version of that 1950s photo, you have to be able to immerse in 2021 in who you are today and deal with the issues you are facing today. Not the lifestyle you want or the issues they had in the past. What are you facing today? What is unresolved within you? How can you fix that and bring that to your family? Everybody wants to look around and look around and look around with all these distractions and things. It goes back to inner peace. It's not found out there. What you're looking for is not out in the world. It's within you. There are a lot of things men need to get over and find ways to handle. If you are stressed out because you're not getting the vaccination that's been mandated by your job, and you're like, all right, I've got to figure out my employment situation and we've got to figure out these finances, that's going to cause some discontentment within. There's going to be that little bit of anxiety. If you can't face that and understand it for what it is, like, okay, this is something I am facing, but I'm going to see it through. I have a plan, I have a network, and I have people in a support system I can rely on. Then you can fall back on that and interact with your kids because you identify what it is. I believe a lot of fathers in this modern age of ours right now, they haven't addressed that. So they're kind of overlooking that inner turmoil. They don't know why they're anxious. But we have seen an uptick in child abuse within homes. We've seen an uptick in a lot of mental health issues in children, a lot of issues going on between parents and their children. So familiar relationships and then just interpersonal between marriages. A lot of stress has been added and nobody wants to address why. Instead of just taking it out on the family, you could look within. Hey guys, I'm stressed out because of this, because all the things going on. It's not weak to admit that. That's a strength. Being able to say, hey, dude, I reached out to you the other day about something. I was like, hey, dude, I need some help with this. I don't fully understand it. I need some guidance. And you're like, yeah, we'll handle it later. It was just at no point was I like, oh my God, I'm going to be judged. I'm a man. I should have all the answers. You need inner peace, which means you need help. So yeah, sometimes it's turning and facing your issues, but sometimes it's reaching out and saying, hey, I have this issue, and taking out of you, that you're fighting by yourself, putting it on the table, and then having a friend or an associate or your network address it. But modern men are going at it alone, Anthony, and I think that's causing a huge disruption in their ability to connect with their family.
100% it is. And you do have to connect the dots. What you said before, there's always a generation that blames the current generation, right? It's always my father blamed my generation, his father blamed him. And to an effect, this is part of the generational dysfunction that we see, right? We see, instead of men owning up and taking ownership of their faults and facing their demons and slaying these dragons, they keep pushing it on not just other people, but the smallest and weakest people in society. They dump it on the kids, right? We make jokes about this all the time. Kids these days are fucked up. And if we can start to understand that as fathers, the more peace we create within, right, the more willing we're to do that hard work, then we'll be more relatable to our kids and we'll be able to connect with them. They'll share their lives with us, because we're sharing with them, right? We're being the example. So then when our kids grow up, they're not going to be looking back in the past. They're not going to be looking at their kids. They're going to be focused and centered on what they're doing. how they're helping their family. My daughters will be focused on finding a good man to build a family with, how they're going to raise their kids. She's never going to say, oh, my dad had it wrong, or, her kids are bad. They're going to be super focused on what it really means to find peace within, to really be centered around who you are. And not only that, but to be proud of who they're becoming, right? I say this all the time. We focus so much on behavior. We punish kids for doing things wrong or misbehaving. We punish them for making a mistake. Once we remove all that negative energy and we start building kids of good character, and instead of worrying about the little things that don't matter, we start focusing on what lessons we want to teach our kids. How important is it to care about other people who add value in your life, to get away from the negative emotions of jealousy and hatred, and stop focusing our time on that energy, but better focus the time on building ourselves and how that is going to help expand and grow our family. Those are honestly, those are things I look so forward to seeing continue on and with my legacy and how my kids' families are going to turn out. It's exciting.
No, it really is, man. And you had me reflecting on me, because we talk about the kids these days looking down, or they had it, or it's their fault, so we're looking back. When you look at you, both of those happen also simultaneously. Like when I look at me, I was talking about my intentionality with my kids. So I'm looking at me, but looking forward to my kids. For me to get to that point, though, and to have that peace and to not be running from demons, I had to turn back and face a lot of them. And three things really stood out when you were talking that I've been very public about. One was my mom committed suicide when I was 6, 2 weeks after my 6th birthday. And that's something that it played a role in shaping my life, but it didn't really dictate where I went in life. So I still had a dad, I still had an upbringing, but I didn't have a mom. So I had to figure that out. I had to navigate that work and stuff. If I had not faced that and just come to terms with it and be like, all right, this just is what it is. I cannot control this. Her actions were hers. I have to carry on. If I was still sitting here, I'm a victim, I'm a child of suicide. If I put those labels on me and those justifications for my failure, and I said, well, that's why I can't get ahead because of that. And that's why I can't connect or have good relationships. If I went down that path, there's no way I'm sitting here talking to you. I never would have made it to this point. I just simply could not have. There's no way I could be leading a peaceful home. And there are a lot of people who are in that situation. Their parents chose a path of taking their life or of something of that nature, ended up in jail, whatever it is, and they just identified with it. It just became a part of who they were, and that's a part of their story. And to me, it's almost one of the most minor points of my story. Like I also lost a tooth as a kid. It didn't play a role, like this played a more significant role than that, obviously, but it didn't play a role in who I am or how I'm leading now. The second thing, I came from a home with corporal punishment. I do not sit and identify with that. I had to turn and face that. Who do I want to be as a father? I love my dad. My dad is the greatest grandfather. We just had a different style when we were coming up. He developed as a man. He learned who he was and how he wanted to be. He had to change his ways, and he did. And it's awesome to see in my own father the development of a man as a father, as a grandfather, and just as a person. So who were I if I were to sit here and just continue to be like, oh, well, you spanked me? He evolved, man. We all make mistakes. We all grow. That's the point of Oak and Rock, to grow and evolve and face those things. And you can't admit that you can change your life and turn things around for you if you're not willing to admit that somebody else can do the same. No matter what they did, if they're going through the same process you're going through, if you can change, they can change. So all I do is throw examples out and just try to be an example for him. And then the third, again, very public, was my sobriety. For me, I just had to get rid of some shit I don't sit here and identify as I don't know what the hell you call it, an alcoholic. I just partied hard. I was addicted to an addictive substance, but for me, that was limiting me from being the best version of me. So how many dads out there are addicted to food? How many dads out there are obese and they're hooked on it and they're saying, well, I want to be a great dad, but they literally cannot keep up with their toddlers. They cannot go on that playground and play with them. They cannot go on the water skis and water ski with them. They cannot go down the slides at the park. They can't do things that would give their children better memories. They cannot make it to the top of the mountain to where their kids have these wonderful views and experiences and accomplishments. And their dad was sitting there watching from the bottom saying, I'll see you when you get back. You robbed them of that because you weren't willing to face that darkness within. You weren't willing to find peace and just be like, all right, I'm going to stop running from you. We have to address this. What's causing me to eat so much? Or for me, what was causing to drink so much? And was it that important? And then for me, like, obviously I was like, nah, booze are not that important to me. I'll figure it out. For somebody that is overweight or addicted to whatever, I would hope if you face that demon, you would place a prioritization on your family. What's best for you, for them? What's best for you is what's best for them. So if you can get yourself as healthy as possible, you're now the best husband, father, brother, whatever you want to be. You're the best at that. But if you can't find that inner peace, how can you say you love your family more than anything? How can you say you're going to be there and be the best you for them if you're not willing to face the darkness within yourself?
You can't. It's going to be a tough road, difficult path. We say this all the time, Zach. It starts with you. And one thing I want to point out is if we don't go down this path, how that shows up in our life, not just within ourselves, being unhealthy or unsatisfied or unhappy with the progress we're making or progress we're not making, but we start to see it play out in our life, in our family. And one thing I always talk about is the true self, right? Being authentic. And I want nothing more than my kids to live their life based on their values, their principles, who they truly are. I want to make sure that I give them some sort of foundation, but I really can't imagine how difficult it is for a young child who doesn't have a father who's leading properly, a man who's not taking care of himself, a man who's constantly, degrading and demeaning his children, who's punishing them, hitting them, and really putting them in an abusive relationship. And then they sit back and they wonder why their kids have anxiety, why they're depressed, why they're not happy and enjoying their life. We have to understand we are the number one influence. Fathers matter the most. We talk about this all the time. And then for things to change, we have to find that peace within ourselves. We have to be willing to do the hard work. We have to be willing to understand our weaknesses. And we need to be ready and capable to attack those weaknesses so we can grow stronger. And if we don't, it's not just us that suffers. We've taken on that responsibility of raising little human beings into adults. And unfortunately, our kids will suffer. So I can't emphasize it enough, right? It has to keep being pointed out how important fathers are. And not only just how important they are, but how important it is for a man to take care of himself so he can be a good father. And one other point on this, it doesn't mean we're perfect. Like you said before with your dad, right? He lived his life. He went down his path. We take those lessons and we have to keep improving. Otherwise, what did your father's life matter? We need to take the good from what he did and we need to be better. We need to say, hey, my dad had some errors. He had some faults. That's okay. But I need to do it. I need to instill what he instilled in myself, give that to my family, and then work upon that to keep growing better and becoming stronger and really be, creating a healthy and high functioning family. To me, that's the ultimate goal. And those
Dude, those dogs love Oak and Rock. I'm telling you, they make an appearance every episode, and I love it. It's a family friendly show. That's what we always say. No, you're absolutely correct. Anthony, and with that too, as these dads are going through it and they're looking back on where they came from and letting that light shine through them, you get to see there's an opportunity there. You get to bring things to new heights. You get to see what that growth looks like. I get to see what a son looks like without corporal punishment. And to your point, when you were first starting out, I could not imagine my son, like, life is hard enough on kids. My son and daughter, if I were 300 pounds, like, would they be as good at sports Would they be as motivated for life? Like, I don't see how they have a great fire. They have like such initiative and go, but we've all lived like that. Like, we all do these things together. If I think they follow your example, not your advice. If I were to just be sitting here in 300 pounds, I'm just like, man, my kids would do it too. We would all be sitting here uncomfortable, and we wouldn't be experiencing like all the fun things we go out and do. And that's not a life well lived. And I'm just like, wow, like, so what's next for them? Like, when I see my kids, what heights are they going to reach? Because they're going to be better than my kids were. And then they're better than I was. So it's that growth we talk about with that legacy and everything. It's a living thing. It's not just words we put on the screen for likes and, retweets on Twitter or anything like that. And to your point on not being perfect, again, Lelia Schott, when we had her on, that's how she started her introduction. I thought that was incredible. Like, that was so just, I want to say humble, but it wasn't even that. It was just so honest and raw. We talk about being authentic, and she used the term vulnerable a lot. So we'll go with vulnerable. She started out by saying, I just want you to know I'm not a perfect parent. I'm an imperfect mother working to be my best, and so your dog's make an appearance. My camera likes to switch. So here we are. We'll become professionals one day.
We're getting
But when she said that, when she was speaking about that, I was like, damn, like she's being very real right now. And that's what we need in the world. Real individuals talking about real families and real things they're going through. I'm not going to sit here and I told you, we're never going to go viral because nobody wants to talk about the family that's getting along. They want to see the disaster. They want to see the car wreck. Oh, I hit my kids. Oh, teenagers, this, that. Negative. That's not what we're doing here. We're doing what's right and what's real. These are real things that kids are going through. We're presenting real solutions that'll get you real results in the real world. I'm not going to tell you if you follow this thing and you put it online a bunch of times. No, I'm going to tell you shit like, hey, you need to do the inner work because you cannot have peace within your home if you do not have peace within yourself. That's fucking raw, but that's fucking real. And that's coming from somebody who's living it. Yeah. This is how we got to the point we're at. This is how the fuck we're running Oak and Rock Fatherhood. Our families aren't in shambles because we're doing the work. We're not just talking about the work.
Yeah, you can't demand it or force it to happen, right? You can't just tell your kids to be happy. You can't just tell them to be successful. It has to come from you. And I'm sure you've witnessed this in your own house, Zach, because I've seen my kids progress through it. But when they're little and they share ideas, right? They share things they're passionate about. It could be like, hey, I love going down a slide. Okay, cool. Or, I really love playing in the sandbox, or I love going to the beach. Those are things that start the process of creativity and growth. When we allow our kids to not just share what they love doing, but just to share that moment with us. And what I see now with my kids as they're older and they look at life, like there's so many different possibilities. So my morning conversations with most of my kids are like, hey, Dad, I'm going to start a podcast today. I'm going to be a yoga instructor. Then the next day it's, hey, Dad, I'm going to start a cookie business. Dad, I'm going to do pottery. And I really can't keep up with it. There's so much, like their minds are always on. They're always looking to explore and take over the world. And there's never an instant where I look back at that and I say, oh, my kids are, they have a hard time concentrating. I'm like, no, man, this is amazing. They are filled with so much energy and passion to just go do life. And the reason I bring it up is it's something that we need to look at as fathers, right? We always talk about the bad stuff that we pass down to our kids. We need to take pride in the good stuff that we're seeing within our children that come from us, that come from our wives and the family that we're building. It's okay to pat yourself on the back and say, hey, I'm doing a great job as a dad. And I don't think we do that enough in this whole fatherhood realm, right? We need the idea is to support fathers to grow, to become better. It's usually easier to put people down and tell them what they're doing wrong. So I do want to say that if you're making changes, you're implementing peaceful parenting, and you're seeing progress, take pride in that, man. That is the epitome of what it means to be a good father. That is solid and a strong foundation. That's what Oak and Rock is about.
That's a fucking solid statement, man. Like, how am I supposed to follow that up? When you think about contentment, you're absolutely correct. It's like a sin to be content. Never satisfied. I say it all the time. I'm like never satisfied. but I'm also equally content all the time. I'm very content with my family. I'm very happy with where we are. I just am always growing. So it's like you're watering, you water that tree for it to keep growing. It doesn't mean you don't like the tree now. You can enjoy the shade from the tree. You can enjoy the fruit from that tree, but you keep watering it because you want that tree to keep growing and remain strong and grow bigger limbs, deeper roots. So you can do both. And I don't want people to think that when I say that, it's in the category you were saying where like, I'm never satisfied doesn't equate to it's not good enough. Yeah. You can say I'm not satisfied with it while equally I love it. I love what it is, but I want it to grow. So there is an element to that I'm glad you hit on that, because I think I fall into that sometimes just with the motivation angle, but without circling back around. A lot of men are conditioned to, well, you're not good enough, because that's not what I'm saying. And words do matter. So we need to make sure that our words and the definitions of them are matching our intent, kind of like we were saying with the tone and the language within the home. If I say, hey guys, I love you, that's my happy voice. I'm not angry. You got to make sure, hey, no, that's not what I'm saying, guys. I really do. Like it has to come across the right way. No, but you're absolutely correct, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you do have to point out the things that we're doing wrong. We have to be honest and say, hey,
just winning is everything we just said.
No. There's better ways to do it. But what you said is right. It's we can't. I don't even remember what you said. It was 30 seconds ago. I lost my attention span.
I made it up anyway.
But no, we do have to. When a father's hitting their child, we have to say, hey, man, you got to stop that, right? It's not the way. There are better ways. But if a father comes to me and says, hey, man, look, I'm reading the books. I'm trying to talk to my kids. They're just not behaving. They're not doing what you said they would do. Keep getting in the reps. Just because the path gets a little bumpy doesn't mean we stop. It doesn't mean we resort back to old ways. It means we keep pushing forward in the direction that we know where that peace is. Right? We're not making this up. In order to find peace, you have to work. It's like anything. It's with finance. If somebody came to me and was like, hey, man, I can't create wealth. And I was like, all right, what are you doing? He's like, well, I go to the racetrack every day and I just, bet on the horses. I bet on the ponies. I would be like, dude, stop doing that. If a man came to me and said, I'm working 80 hours a week, I'm trying to save money, I just don't see why I'm not getting more money, we would have an honest conversation about it, right? I wouldn't pick him apart. I wouldn't say, I would say, dude, you need to work, keep working hard, but maybe there's a better way that we can guide you to obtain more wealth. It's the same thing with parenting. It's just so many men miss that step, right? They don't, for some reason, they're very hesitant to go down that difficult path. They'd rather do the easy way. And I'm getting a little bit off topic, but sorry.
No. Honestly, that highlights the point of this whole video. That highlights the whole point of this topic of inner peace. Hey, Anthony, the kids aren't responding the way you said they would. That's okay, because you're not doing this for their response. You're doing this because on the inside, this is what's right. You are doing this for you. They're an extension. Their behaviors are sort of how you read how it's working and how it's going and who they are and where they're at. But they have to find inner peace too. They've got to get over how you were raising them. They've got to find their new footing in this land. And that might be initially a very abrupt thing to their lives. And so they're going to freak out. But I cannot, stress enough. You don't go down the peaceful parenting path so you have happy kids. You go down the peaceful parenting path because it's the right path to go down. It's the right thing to do. It's just what right is. A peaceful, connected home is the way it should be. The violence that's been normalized is wrong. And no matter how popular wrong is, it's still wrong. So we're doing this because it's the right thing to do. We're talking about this because there's not enough people talking about it. We recently had a call inside FOE where one of the men was saying like, hey, I keep trying and, the relationship's coming around, but I'm really seeing it with my kids. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to keep doing this. Like, this just feels good. And that hit me right in the soul because, A, the man allowed himself to feel something and say it. Because we say that's a very feminine thing, your feelings, fuck your feelings, right? We're just going to focus on the work. No, the dude felt like, he's like, hey, my kid was fussing at the dinner table and I didn't yell at them. He's like, they found their way around to the food and they ended up eating. He's like, and That just felt good. We had a meal without yelling. We had teeth brushing. We had bedtime without yelling. It just feels
what
good.
a
Like
thought,
this,
right?
it's like, dude, that's because it's right. And that's all. It's been possible for all of us this whole time. We just didn't see it.
Yeah, well said, brother. That's excellent.
And as people come through to this, and as they start to find their way, like, I get it. They're going to reach out. They're going to be issues. But if we can keep that at the forefront of our mind, if we can stay focused on that topic, that, look, you're doing this because it's the right thing to do, not for any specific outcome, I think we'll have a lot better of a response, because men, we're always chasing, like, I want to grab the thing. What's my milestone? What's my goal? What's my objective? Well, it's a state of being. And so therefore, it's not a tangible thing you can just grab. It's not a certain amount of money. It's not a certain behavior from your child. Your child's like a lava lamp. They're always evolving and growing and moving. And they're within the shape you set. In a peaceful home, they can grow and be their best selves. If you limit that, well, they're stuck in a different shape, and they can only be that. If you don't care at all, they can be whatever. And now you no longer have control of what it even looks like. But if you're looking for my kid will do this, how about your kid will be connected and happy and trust you? That's a great milestone. How about you go through your life without walking on eggshells or thinking that you're never good enough or never satisfied? Just growing and allowing yourself to feel and be good and be focused, and then work on being your best self. These are intangible things, but they're things that are all achievable. If you stop trying to reach something, you just start trying to be better. I wish I had a microphone that wasn't attached so I could fucking drop it.
No, that's good, man. It's an important conversation. Dads need to hear this, right? It needs to be in the forefront, and we need to start acknowledging it more. We need to really start questioning how we treat our kids, how we talk to them, in every aspect. And I think it's something that's missing in society. And if we can dial it in, if we can promote this message in a positive way that's encouraging other fathers, I think you'll see real change, right? You'll see the effects of this in your home, in your city, in all throughout the world is the ultimate goal. But it always starts with us, right? We have to be those examples. We are the number one influence in our children's lives, and we need to start taking it more seriously. We need to be better men. We need to stop blaming everybody else, pointing fingers. The kids, the prior generations, we have it easy. Who has it easy? It just needs to be done. Somebody's got to be willing to do the work. And again, that's the message we're looking to bring, and that's what we're doing with our actions, right? With our conversations and how we live our lives.
I thought that was you wrapping it up.
I can. Another great episode, bro. Honestly, Oak and Rock Fatherhood. I'm Anthony McLarino from Peaceful Fathers. We got Zac Small from the Family Alpha, the Fraternity of Excellence. We're going to continue to drop these important messages, have these good conversations. We have a new podcast coming out Monday with Synergy Parenting, and we talk about how important it is to be connected with your kids, and we get a woman's perspective into the issue, about how we can be better fathers, how we can have stronger families, and how we can work together to help build that.
Our first guest.
Nice.
We're growing, brother. In the world, they're not ready. Hey, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, make sure you do that below. The content's coming. The videos are going to continue to drop. The discussions are going to continue to be had. And this thing's only going to continue to grow. So get in now. Make sure you're tuning in. Set your reminders. And again, every Wednesday, we're going live from 8:30 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.